Marshall has been working on a bipartisan basis in Washington, D.C. on the Cooper-Davis Act. And the Senator has some good news to share with us. Senator, good morning. Great to have you on the show. What's going on with the Cooper-Davis Act? What can you share with us back here in Kansas City?
Yeah, Pete. Well, good morning to you and all your listeners. This is a serious subject, but when I saw you on the calendar today, I thought you and I'd be up in St. Joe, Missouri today, broadcasting live from Chiefs Camp. But this is a serious topic, okay?
Well, I would love, we will have to set that up for some time in the next few weeks, depending on your schedule, where we have a Marshall and Mundo live remote from St. Joe. That's got a nice ring to it, Senator. I like that.
It does. I look forward to doing that with you, and we hope that Mr. Tony is doing all right. He tweaked his knee yesterday and got to get Chris Jones back into camp. But on to Cooper-Davis. This is a serious issue, and I don't mean to make light of it in any way, shape, or fashion. Every day, the state of Kansas, a young adult dies from fentanyl poisoning. We're now using Narcan 10 to 15 times every day in the state of Kansas. And, Missouri would probably be a little bit higher than those numbers. I know you have a lot of listeners in Missouri as well. But the Cooper-Davis Act got passed out of committee 16-5. Which is a significant number. It is bipartisan legislation. Gene Shaheen from New Hampshire and Dick Durbin from Illinois, both strong, I would say liberal Democrats. Gene probably not quite as much as Dick is. Worked together to get this through the Judiciary Committee, and we're trying to figure out a way to get it to the floor for the vote and try to get it over on the House, get some momentum as well, and get it to the president's desk. And just trying to what this legislation does is force the social media companies to cooperate with police in some way, shape, or form. Cooper purchased 2 Percocet tablets with his friends online, and he took a half a tablet and died. A third of the deaths can be traced back to fentanyl being purchased online. It's easier and cheaper to get a fentanyl tablet in the state of Kansas, in the state of Missouri, state of Nebraska, Iowa. Your listeners go up that far, I'm sure. So it's easier to get fentanyl than it is a piece of pizza or a whole pizza, for that matter. You can purchase fentanyl for $1 a tablet or less. I just warn folks, the cartel has over 2,000 active members in the state of Kansas. This is serious business. This is a huge national security issue for this country.
Now, that is incredible. 2,000 cartel members in the state of Kansas. I mean, that is a data point I had not heard before. That's unbelievable. So now the Cooper-Davis Act got out of committee. Where does it go from here? How does it end up, and how soon do you hope to get it to the president's desk?
Well, it seems like we go from one crisis to the next in D.C., so it makes it hard to get something like this across the finish line. I think there's a path that we could get unanimous consent over on the House side without a big markup. When they see something passed by such a huge markup on the Senate side, maybe they can avoid going through the committee process on the House, and that would get it to the president's desk. It's not going to happen before the August break, but this fall we'll get geared up and work all the levers we can and try to get the word out there.
Do you see any way? I mean, I know that, that we obviously talk about the differences in Washington, D.C., and there are many of those, but what pushback, if any, have you heard on this that may stall what seems to be an obvious, easy, bipartisan bill like the Cooper-Davis Act done and to the president's desk? I mean, what concerns, what roadblocks do you foresee here on this, if any?
Yeah, I think this is just a lack of oxygen in the room, Pete, that literally we are just going from one crisis to the next, trying to solve it. So September 30th is when most of the funding programs run out. That's the fiscal year for the federal government. So we're trying to reauthorize the FAA bill, and then we've got the farm bill there that runs out as well. So I think it's just a lack of oxygen in the room and a lack of time on the floor as well to get something like this done.
Well, I hope it's something that you guys are able to get done, and we appreciate Cooper Davis, the family, of course, of the late Cooper Davis, really rallying around you and helping get this hopefully across the finish line sooner rather than later. Now, this does tie in as well to what is going on at the border. These two issues weave in together well, unfortunately. Roger Marshall's joining us on KCMO. Secretary Mayorkas and the failures that we continue to see on that border policy that's also impacting the fentanyl crisis that is real in Kansas, Missouri, and across the entire nation. What is going on with Secretary Mayorkas, and what are you calling for a guy who, as far as I can tell, has been very clearly derelict in his duties?
Yeah, I think that's the bottom line, Pete, is look, over 6 million people have crossed the border illegally under his watch. And ultimately, this blame goes back to the White House as well. More recently, over 200 terrorists have been apprehended at the border. Over 8,000 Chinese nationals have crossed the border. And all these folks are involved in this web of the fentanyl web, as I would describe it. These Chinese nationals coming across, and they're helping launder the money and get it back to their people back in China, where all this fentanyl originates as well. But 90% of the fentanyl comes across the border. There's a huge humanitarian crisis going on at the border as well. Just, last week, a truckload with 69 illegal immigrants were packed in the back of some type of a truck as well. So now Mayorkas has been using his private email. I suppose we won't get FOIA'd as well. And 400 pages of it, I believe, is what that they found that he was using it for, actively recruiting people to come across the border using this new CBP-1 app to make this asylum process go quicker and easier. So he's lowered the bar to get in the country, which I would still say is illegally, but he pretends like it's legal as well. But, the long story made short is we've called for the Senate to give him a vote of no confidence, trying to pave the way for the House to impeach him.
Well, that would be very welcome news. I mean, do you see any way that this issue on the border gets any better before 2024 and a potential change in the White House, or are we at the point now where there's not a lot, even with all the noise that you and many of your Republican colleagues are trying to make, there's just not a lot that actually is going to be done or can be done to slow this thing down?
Yeah, Pete, I just want to remind your listeners that Joe Biden wants this crisis. He wants all these people coming across the border. He doesn't care whether it's legal or illegal. He wants more people coming across the border. At least that's what his actions look like to me. He's made no effort to slow this down. And now he's going to start counting the numbers a little bit differently to throw a facade over what's really happening at the border as well. So to answer your question, I don't know, again, if the House has enough oxygen to impeach Mayorkas. They've got the Hunter Biden issue. They've got the COVID-19 origins issue. When do they find time to impeach Mayorkas? I don't know. And even that process, you get it. It will take a year to get that done. So this is why elections are so important. Elections have consequences. About once a week, Senate Majority Leader McConnell looks at me, and when I get frustrated, he says, "Roger, it's not your fault that the people of America gave us a Democrat majority." Chuck Schumer he runs the agenda, and the person that runs the agenda runs the show in so many ways. If he doesn't like something, he just doesn't give us a vote on it. It's that simple. Elections have consequences, and we're feeling them right now.
We absolutely are. Well, keep up the good work, Senator Marshall. And I know you're a busy man, but we are going to try to make that St. Joe trip happen at some point with you, because that would be an absolute blast. We always appreciate you being here, Senator. Thanks for the time.